Hey, everybody, this is Wintermute coming to you from the Think Tank. And this is the, post game report, so to speak, that me and Tim, the owner of Acropolis Games, had last week, or 2 weeks ago now. And I wanted to kind of go down on the kind of go over, what we learned, some ideas that came up. But the most important thing about this for both of us was a chance to actually play the game, because I don't have many players in this. He's the only one that I found so far that would actually be into this, and but I can sit here and read the rule book all I want and listen to other players all I want, but really you got to get experience playing the game, particularly with another person, to really kind of understand the rules, to go from knowing the rules to understanding the rules. And there is a difference there, really, with anything, of knowing something or understanding something. So that was the best takeaway from the game, was just being able to sit down and go, roll dice and crunch the numbers and try out certain things that we hadn't, that were only theoretical up until that point, because I've only read them in a rule book and really haven't played against somebody else who was trying new things. So the actual experience itself was the best takeaway. One of the things that came up, though, is when we started setting up. So what we did is we set up Monday. I was there about noon, and then we played Tuesday through Thursday or Friday, from about 11 till about 3:34 in the afternoon. And then we kind of called it. And then Friday night, we obviously called it. Now, we made it to about turn 9. And one of the things that you hear people play about, or you say about this game, is how long it takes to play. Well, the truth is, there were two key points that me and Tim both noticed. Is number one, having the in my other video where I described how I kind of organize my units in their storage trays, that one of the storage compartments is solely for setup for 1936. So all the units that would be set up for Germany are in that one thing, so you can just kind of scoop them out and go play. And then I have the setup card in there, laminated, ready to go. So really all you do is you take the card out, you scoop the units out, you put them on the card, you go sit it next to Germany and set up the units just like the card says. And that worked out so much smoother than even I intended. Really, setup took almost no time at all. And even Tim made the comment, "Man, I expected this to take way longer just because of the sheer scope." And I go, "Yeah, me too." So that was definitely a takeaway. If you can do something like that to kind of just make things easier and simple, simplify the overall process, that's one way you can shave off a lot of time from the logistics of trying to play the game. Is kind of make setup as easy as you can. Really, we both noticed that the first few turns just went by really quick. They went by slow for us comparatively, because he was trying to figure out what to do and was very unsure, and that's normal for anybody who's never played the game before and had only read the rules. But really, even he said, "Oh, dude, once I get another game or two under my belt, man, I'm sure those first 6 turns will just fly right by." Because you don't have a huge economy. You don't have many choices. The only 2 conflicts that are going on are the Spanish Civil War, which is contained and very small, and then the Chinese Civil War, which is, again, contained and relatively small. We might have, if this was our 3rd or 4th game, I think there was a very good chance we could have actually got the game done by that Friday, rather than only getting about halfway through. And now the game definitely the game definitely slows down once the war really gets into full swing. There's just a lot more money being thrown around, a lot more units, a lot more decisions to make. So definitely the later turns will take more time, without a doubt. But really, you can take those first 6 turns, or really just sum it up as the pre-war turns, and you can just you know, if you've got competent players that have played before and know what they're going to do anyway, you'll just fly through those turns. I mean, you can probably get those turns done in just a couple hours if you've got people who are really dedicated to moving things along. So like I said, yeah, make the setup easier. And when you're planning things out, those first few beginning turns really aren't that big of a deal. One thing that I definitely realized, I gave Tim the choice of whether he wanted to play the Axis or whether he wanted to play the Allies, and he said it was kind of a toss up. And then he finally goes, you know what, I'll go ahead and play Axis. And I go, okay, you know what, there'll be a lot more. It'll be a lot tougher because there's just more to do with them. But it will be you'll be more in the thick of things. And having played it now, I realize that without a doubt, if you have a new player who really wants to learn the game and is really smart and capable of picking things up, then make sure they play the Axis first. Number one, I think they're funner, so they'll have a better time and want to play the game more. Number two, it forces the Axis have to encounter a lot of the crunchier rules. The double impulse and blitzing with Germany when you go into France really is a real good learning experience for how all that works and timing your combats. And it's okay, well, I'm going to do here, then I'm going to blitz here, and I'm going to land the paratroopers here. And so there's logistically, it forces you to kind of go, it forces you to learn. The Axis, the Allies just don't have a whole lot of examples of that compared to the Germans and the Japanese, who have a wide variety of things that they need to get done, have a wide variety of units they need to use, and it just both those nations just force players to tackle the rules head on, and I think that learn them much quicker by doing them rather than just sitting back passively and watching somebody else who may know what they're doing. I think that's a better way to learn anyway, in general. And then Japan, they're just a logistical nightmare at times. All the transports and how you're going to, amphibious invade all the islands and when you're going to pull the trigger and how naval combat works and the new blockading I can't think of what they're called right now. Where the screening forces, so you can, so you no longer have the destroyer blocking, 12 capital ships from continuing to move. Rules like that, Japan will most likely run into right away. It gives them a good chance to learn. Like I said, transport and a lot of the naval stuff gives them a good chance to learn naval landings and how shore bombardments work and just and what it is to and how good and bad it is to have to fight in China, which is something you got to learn early on in the game, regardless, if you're going to play Japan. So that said, I definitely would recommend a competent, smart player who really wants to learn the game. Let them play the Axis first thing. I think they'll have a much better experience. They'll learn more a lot quicker. But then again, you also need to know that person and what their personality is. Not every shoe fits everybody. I'm actually trained on how to train people, so I understand different people learn differently. If you got somebody who is really picks up stuff by just watching, well, then maybe they're better off playing the Russians or the Comintern or the Allies. So make that call. But for my money, I would say go with the Axis. So with all that said, we definitely ran into some situations where there was, you really don't want to do that. Here's why. And, I have a little more experience, so I probably said that, I'm probably mainly the one who said that. But then there was also an instance where he was getting ready to invade France, and once I kind of walked him through and he really explained how blitzing and the double impulse worked, he looked at his forces that he built over the last couple turns, and he's played Axis and Allies, so he wasn't a complete rookie with the concepts. He knew how the core concepts kind of worked for Axis and Allies that will apply here. But the blitzing rules and their double impulse and choosing the order of your combats to make sure everything kind of lines up properly. I kind of walked him through that in great detail, and he kind of looked at his force and went, wow, I did not build right for that. And I go, no, you didn't. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to pick up all those pieces, and you're going to just build what you want right now. Knowing what you know now, you're just going to build what you want, so that I don't want you to invade France, completely come to stall out at the borders of Paris, and then have a miserable time playing the next couple turns. That's ridiculous. No, now that you grasp the rules, we're going to redo that. And there were definitely a couple times where it's like, he would do something, and I would kind of go, I don't know whether you want to do it that way. He goes, well, I thought it worked. Oh, no, that's not how that works. This is how it works. Take that back and start over. And if you want to take back a more of your turn, knowing that that's how that works, go right ahead. I want us to have fun while we're learning the game. I'm not here to win. I'm here to teach and myself and Tim. That's why I was there. So there were definitely some redos here and there. Now, we let most of the die rolls stand in terms of I could not defend. I could not get any hits on the defense. I mean, it was just atrocious. And there were some rules that I forgot. Like I forgot the attack weakness for the KMT. So next time I play, I'll be able to remember that. But that's why it's good to get some of the stuff under the belt. Get this experience under the belt. Just do it. And the more times you do it, every time from now on, I should be able to remember that the KMT have an attack weakness because I flubbed it this game. So yeah, that's and I think most games, learning games, when you're there to teach somebody, that they shouldn't really be that competitive. Even if the other person is naturally a competitive person, you're not here to be competitive. You want to make sure that they come back. You don't want to, and I've seen this with other games where you get the guy who puts his, Chaos Army on the table against a new young kid who just started playing Eldar, and he tables him by the end of the second turn. Well, that's horrible for that kid. And he probably won't come back and play anymore, and he's lost a potential opponent in the future. I don't want to see that happen with anything like this. I want people to enjoy it, understand it, and then become a competitive player once, in time, and become to the level where, now we really can have a real cutthroat competitive game. So, and I think me and Tim will eventually get to that point. One thing that also came up a lot during the game was I got to test out some of the reference sheets that I made and some of the play aids that I made. And one thing that I realized is now I have the big map, the very big map. So there were a couple things that came up. I probably need to spread my poker chips around the table. So that we have different pools of poker chips to pull from rather than the one kind of metallic case that it comes in, just because the table was so big. So I'm probably going to look for holders to keep the chips at some chips at the other end of the table, so when we need to cash things out or turn in our IPPs, it's just a lot easier. We're not going to one point all the way down at the other end of the table. Same thing with the gray chips and some of the other tokens. I figured always, one of those tackle box cases with all that in it would be enough. Well, really, I probably need two, and split it between the two of them, and then put one at one end of the table, one at the other end of the table. So it's always easier to just kind of I want to make sure that it's all within one person's arm, it's always within arm's reach of whoever's playing, no matter where you're standing. Most of those resources should be, just to kind of speed up the game. And sometimes it's frustrating when you gotta, you're doing all this shuffling and you're like, oh, I need two more great chips. Oh, and then you gotta walk all the, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you've got the big map or a really big gaming table, is making several points for those resources to be available. And in that same note, I bought these, and I've seen a lot of people like to have one nice big dice pit at either end of the table. I prefer these, and the reason I prefer these is because me and Tim, neither one of us really liked using the battle board. He's an experienced Axis and Allies player, and so am I, and I knew all the unit stats pretty much by heart. There were some of the newer units, like the ships, I had to look up just to be sure that I had it right. But beyond that, we never pulled out the battle board other than maybe to reference what a shore bombardment was once. So we would usually just pull our units off into the Atlantic. He would take this die tray, I would take this die tray, and then we would just line up the units like smallest to biggest. And we just knew what they needed to roll. And if he didn't, because he hadn't played this, because it was different, I would just go, okay, light armor is a 4, but it's in the mountains, so he's going to be a 3. And it's like, okay. And Tim is capable of remembering that stuff without much coaxing on my part. So I don't know, how do other people feel about the battle board? The only time I've ever brought out the battle board in other games, and some of the games I tried online, is when it was a really big battle. And there was just a lot of logistics to worry about. And it was just a little bit quicker and easier to have the battle board. But even with that, I'm probably to the point where I'll, other than maybe referencing the battle board, or if a really new player really thinks it would help them, I don't see myself using the battle board very often. And that's why I like these portable dice trays better, a little smaller. Just, he takes one, I take the other, and we just roll the dice, and then we just take our casualties. And here, it's all contained right here, usually in the middle of the Atlantic or the middle of the Pacific, depending on which theater we're in. So that's just an idea. And these are really nice. And the company is Harbor Loot. They're not sponsoring me or anything. But I like these because as far as dice pits go, these unsnap so it's flat, and you can just stick it into a binder with your like D&D character or whatever the case is. In this case, they're just, I have plenty of space here, but I really like that. So I'm going to, I could see myself using this if I start gaming again or doing a lot of board gaming beyond this again. Once COVID lets up, I could see taking these with me just to have a nice dice pit for whatever game I'm playing. And they really don't take up much space. It's, it's really only as thick as a couple sheets of paper, but it's still very sturdy and very nice. And again, they are not my sponsor. But Harbor Loot. Another thing that came up was we had the build track card. Now, that's 1 point all the way down at the other end of the table, and multiple turns, we both completely forgot that our units were even there. Our multiple turn build units. It got a little bit better as later in the game once we got rolling. But we both kind of went, man, that'd be kind of nice if we had, one for either each side or one for each nation. And I kind of went, oh, well, let me think about that. So here's what I had done just a few weeks ago. This is what I'd made as a build. This is going to be the player's build area. So you would put your IPPs here, and then here's all your builds. And then, obviously, each nation had their own one colored, and I just laminated the nation flag and put it on top. And you can see I made one for all the various nations. So I brought these with me, and we were playing with them. But then I realized, you know what? I could probably get away with something like that on these, because these definitely are smaller. But if each nation has its own build track for the multi-turn stuff, that would be, you wouldn't need as much space anyway. So I came up with this. So obviously this is China's, Communist China, Stage 3, Stage 2, and place units. Now, I'm not going to put all that information in here as to what what goes into Stage 3 right off the bat, what goes into Stage 2 right off the bat. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to assume that the players... there's not enough space, and I think it would just make it look cluttered. I'm going to assume that the players know or know how to look that up, so it shouldn't be a problem. So basically, you just keep your IPPs here or right next to it, whatever you like, and then this is just the nation specific. Now, why would China CCP have one? In case they become a major power. That's why. That's in the rules now. So I went ahead and made one for them too. The other thing that now this is not the final product. The other thing that I'm going to add to these is I'm going to make an entry here for each nation for all the special units that it and only it gets. So if it gets colonial infantry, there's going to be an entry for colonial infantry here telling you that, Britain can build colonial infantry. If Germany will have two entries, one for the Panzer 1E and one for the SS Panzer Grenadiers when I make theirs. So it'll be just like on the Chinese CCP one. Only I'm going to basically use my editing program to take the special units that only Germany can build and put them right here. I'm going to do this for two reasons. One, quick reference for what is special about this nation that only it can build. And two, that cuts down on the amount of overall build sheets we need to have floating around the table. So really all I would need to do is print off 2, 3, 4 build sheets from whatever nation you want. Get rid of all erase all the units that only that nation gets, and then have a generic build sheet for all the nations that every player can look at for all the basic unit types. And then you would, to see what the special units are that this nation can build and what the requirements are, you just look at whatever the entry is here on this. Just as a way of kind of, again, I think that would speed things up. It would cut down on the amount of paper we need and laminated stuff we need floating around the table. Because as it is, I didn't print the build sheet for each and every nation and laminate it. I only printed two German copies, and we just used that. And then I simply referred back to the digital copy for the special units that they could build, which really, we didn't get super far, so we didn't build that many anyway. So I figured, okay, well, we'll take that rather than having to look it up, and we'll put it right here. I may also put for the units that can build colonial infantry, I may also put a colonial infantry little box here, so you remember, okay, I'm building a colonial infantry, not a regular infantry here, so he has special placement rules, but there's no special chips or anything for him. I may do a similar thing, but a box here for Germany for the blue division that it gets if Spain, so that's just a reminder. Okay, reminder, blue division every turn, assuming that he's won the Civil War in Spain. So I think in the long run, this will be logistically a lot easier. Now, the only downside to this is these obviously take up a little bit more space than even the coaster that I've seen like General Hand Grenade use for his. The coasters maybe about that big. These probably take up a little bit more space overall. But you'll have to ask yourself, well, what kind of space do I have to work with? And maybe these won't work very well for you. But this is just an idea to logistically maybe help you out with the game, like it would for me. And I got those at Walmart. Basically, they're these. And I've got another project that I'm going to use these for, which I'll go into later. But I think this was $3, and there's 6 of them in each one. So they're really inexpensive. Basically, it's balsa wood. Real light, real simple. So yeah, that's easy to pick up and easy to work with. So there was that idea came out of the game. And then the other idea that I was working on before the game, but this is the first time that I had a chance to actually put it into play, are my custom hit dice. So just like I showed in my custom upgrades for Global War with the 6-sided dice, I took these dice and, let's see, this is a 1, so only one of these has a single hit on it. So no pip, no hit. It's as simple as that. And then obviously they go up in denomination, and I'll explain the color. There is a color system to this, which I'll explain here in a minute. But first I want to point out, we will take this die right here. You'll notice that this one side has a red pip above it. And then this side has 2 red pips. And then this side has 3 red pips. And that is for target selection when you roll these dice, if you even want to go that route. I could have made these dice without any pips, red pips on them at all, and just made them like normal, and just used regular 12-sided dice with, numbered 1 through 12 on all their faces, and just rolled them for the target selection. But I kind of wanted to try this out to see if it would work okay, and it has so far. So if you get 1 pip, you effectively rolled a 1 if you're looking for target selection. If you've got 2 red pips, you effectively rolled a 2 if you're looking for target selection, and 3 red pips, you're looking for 3 for target selection. Or you got a 3 for target selection. I don't think there's anything in the game right now that has target selection higher than 3. I could be wrong. Some of the expansions, some of the, there may be something in the future, but if that's the case, I'll just grab one of the regular dice and roll that instead. If I need to see a result on 1 through 4 in combat. So that's why there's 2 different pips on there. So these worked out fairly well so far. And Tim was one of the guys who loved my custom dice for Axis and Allies Global when we played. So, I didn't have enough to share with him at this point. I was just sort of rolling them and testing them out and seeing if there was anything I wanted to do different with them. But they worked out okay so far. Now, the color coding is specific. I did it a specific way. I didn't do the colors in a specific way as is, but I did a shading in a particular way. So this is going to be the storage bin for the dice. And you can see I actually went ahead and colored each compartment so you know where which die goes in what. And it's a little easier to remember because there's 11 different colors, which is which. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then these trays are going to be used for just regular 12-sided dice and 6-sided dice. So we'll have, because obviously you still need some regular 12 and 6-sided dice for the game. So you can also see light, dark, light yellow, darker yellow, light green, dark green, light blue, dark blue, light purple, dark purple, and then light beige or light brown. Again, to kind of clarify, that's a 1. There, this basically the light colors are going to be odd, and the darker colors are going to be even. And again, that means if you pick up these 2 dice in your hand, and all you see are the colors, but you don't know which is which, this is going to be a 2, this is going to be a 1. If anybody has any questions on what I mean by that, then go ahead and put them in the comment section. And then, but like here, if you got 2 blue in your hand, this light blue is going to be the odd, and then, excuse me, this dark blue is going to be the even for the blues, which is going to be 7 and 8. You can see right here, 7 and 8. Now, ultimately, my goal, this is not finished, by the way. Ultimately, my goal is to probably make 2 of these trays so that there can be a dice accessible to people on either side of the table. And color code them the exact same way, and make some more. If anybody really has any interest in how I actually went about making the dice, if I get enough people who are like, yeah, let me know how you did that, because I'm kind of curious to make my own. But it was really easy. I'll do like a separate video and show how I did it. So far, this is still a project in work, or under construction kind of project, because I don't have enough of each color yet that I want to ultimately have. But yeah, I'm happy with these so far. If anybody sees anything with these that they think would work better, or maybe I should do different, or maybe something I didn't even take into account that won't come up, that I missed, that could be a problem, feel free to let me know. Another thing that I'm going to work on is a tracker for the number of science dice you have, science rolls you have, or tech rolls, excuse me. Because I kept on having to recount my factories with every nation, because I couldn't remember whether I had upgraded that to the major factory for Britain last turn, or was I going to do it this turn. And I know it seems like a real, minor thing, but it was a nuisance that kind of kept on coming up. So I'm just going to make a little tracker where you just put the roundel for your nation, and that way everybody can see it too. And that way, all you do is subtract any dice from damaged factories that you're not going to repair that turn for whatever reason. So I didn't have to constantly recount them. And really, America was the one I kept forgetting because I had so many that I was either upgrading or not upgrading that I'm like, okay, did I want to upgrade to that fifth major this turn, or was I going to do that next turn? I can't. Let me count them real quick. So that's why I'm going to make a chart for that. There are a few other logistical things that I thought of, which I won't go into here. I want to kind of think about them a little more, plot them out, maybe get a test run going, just to kind of help things along, particularly with the reference sheets. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm happy with how my reference sheets work right now. I think each sheet on its own is good, but sometimes it was a little difficult to track down the sheet you needed because there are a lot, and I'm probably going to make some more. So I'm going to rethink how I have them kind of organized with each other. So anybody who has any questions about anything I talked about, or anything that you think you could offer that I didn't think for any upgrades or things I was messing with, or anything, any way of improving anything that I had kind of come up with, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my assessments about making the game faster in terms of setup and thinking about how it runs really quick once you know what you're doing, or quicker once you know what you're doing, and about how you feel about making the new players play Axis, just to get a lot of that harder, crunchier rules out of the way and give them the real experience of how that works, and give them a different, maybe you feel differently. Maybe no, always let them play allies first, for whatever reason. So anything I talked about, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about it, and give me some feedback, and let's get a discussion going about all this. So for right now, in the future, my schedule is lightened up now. So I should be able to get back to making some videos, but it's probably not going to be full speed ahead because I got a lot of projects that I kind of want to finish up. I do have some idea videos I want to go into. There's still some strategy videos that I need to go back to. I still officially have the expansion that I haven't even begun. I mean, I've worked it on. I've got some notes down, but the idea was to kind of outsource it to the community. And then present it once we were happy with it to the president of the company, and kind of see if we can't have a community sourced kind of expansion for the game. But that I want to get into full speed, but I don't want to have too many pots on the stove at once. So I want to kind of finish off, clean up, polish up some of the stuff I'm working on, and then hit the ground running with some of the other projects that are in the pipeline. So that's kind of the long-term goal, or the kind of how things are going to play out over the next couple weeks to couple months. So again, any comments or questions, leave them leave them below, and let's talk about it. This is Wintermute signing off from the Think Tank.